mate, we did not talk about that very expensive looking record collection that you have behind you. You look like you're a man in the midst of a terrible, terrible vinyl addiction. Well,
Mate, it is. It's definitely a vinyl addiction. It was a CD addiction. I haven't got rid of them, but I've had to sort of move them out and away. But yeah, it's been replaced by a vinyl addiction, which, to be fair, I've had since I was a teenager, but it just got replaced for a little bit since, when CDs came in and then over the past sort of, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so, I've kind of been more gung-ho at that and, regular trips to Utopia in the city and Red Eye and any secondhand record store I can find, I'm in there.
yes.
So yeah, it's a passion and a joy.
We know of Utopia well. Are you able to touch that at all? Are you able to, is it close enough for you to touch?
Right there.
Here's a fun one that I have never ever done in an interview before.
Hmm.
Without looking, I want you to blindly reach behind you, pull out a record, and we're going to talk about it. Are you game?
Wow, this could be
Disastrous.
this could be disastrous. Let's see. Oh, no,
All I
what's
can
this one?
think of is Shaun of the Dead when they're going through the record collection. Sade, throw it. Uh,
Hesitation Marks by Nine Inch Nails.
oh, you did that deliberately.
I I'm just glad it was that, not that. It was that and not my Culture Club records or something
Nickelback
like that.
or well, Nickelback should be right next to it. So I'm like,
Nickelback, yeah.
it's like
I
Nine
don't
Inch
have any
Nails.
Nickelback records.
Oh, liar, liar, liar. We all know. Yeah, nobody has any Nickelback records, and
That's
yet they
it.
still play stadiums. Uh-huh. No one's buying it, Rod. I'm on to you. You know what would fucking help this whole interview process? Some questions. What do you reckon? Let's go
Let's
crazy.
do it.
Let's
Let's do
go.
it.
Let's go absolutely crazy. Hey, you open that. It's a good thing I'm prepared. Hey, for
That's
fuck's
all
sake.
right. As prepared as
Uh, there we go.
me.
Excellent. So, look, let's wind back the clock and look. Let's just pretend like this isn't the second go. Go. Let's just pretend this is the first go. Now, you and I, my first interaction with Brace was shooting the Necrosonic Festival, and I happened to, in the process of that, capture the first Brace performance in 2 decades.
That's it.
Why so long?
Do you know what? It's lucky it even happened at all.
Yeah.
We owe it all to Ken Haynes, the master behind Necrosonic and Dead of Winter and everything else that's good seems to happen in Brisbane, or a lot of the good stuff. And
Did he
he
say
reached
it? He
out.
uses a different one on Facebook. Is it Bartley?
Kent? Kent? Oh, I don't know. I thought it
Oh,
was
we'll just call him Kent because I know him by a different surname, but I know we're talking about the same person. So go
okay.
ahead. Yeah,
Kent.
yeah.
Yeah. So Kent reached out. Kent used to see us back in the day. He was, he really liked the band, and whenever we came up to Brisbane or anywhere in Queensland to play, he was quite often the promoter who'd bring us up there. And then with Necrosonic, obviously bringing bands back from the dead, he reached out to Jamie, our singer, and just said, "Would you be interested?" We were all mates still, and we have all these songs that we started recording 20 years ago, but we never finished, but we'd always wanted to. And it just kind of made sense. And we thought, fuck, how good would it be to get back together and play again? And there's a guaranteed crowd there. Do you know what? To be
Yeah.
part of the festival and to not have to worry about, is anyone going to turn up or any of that stuff. We just had to rock up and play, and we got to play alongside some killer bands. There were people watching us. We didn't get pelted with stuff, which was good. So we were happy with that. So yeah,
See,
10 out of 10.
I thought you guys might have been worried. I think there might have been some people up the front falling asleep, which is why you kept shouting to "Way, yeah, 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 Kent!"
Yeah, but we had that since day one. That's why we wrote that song. But that was a good
Oh,
show. That was a lot of fun. And that's thing it just kind of kick-started everything since.
yeah. Well, it's funny. Um, I can remember Jabba from Channel V name dropping you guys. We're talking almost 20 years ago, over 20 years ago now. So it's you've
Yeah.
been on people's minds.
I
Well,
guess.
you
I
were
mean,
at the time anyway.
right, right. Well, we were lucky to do a lot of cool stuff. We were only around for a couple of years, but we played shows with Deftones and Sparta, and did a nice tour with Sunk Lodo, another one with She Had Pacifier when they were called then, the Pacifier and Super Ice tour. Lots of great supports and our own headlining shows as well. So, we got around and we had a song or two on Triple J there for a little bit, and so yeah, we got lots of support and. It turns out a few people remembered us, which was nice. And every now I haven't seen Jabba for a long time, but he was always one of the good guys.
Yeah, I met him once when they Channel V did a little traveling sideshow thing, which came to Lonnie, which we all, of course, all went to because not a great deal happens in Lonnie. So, we were fucking on that. And he
Yeah,
signed my shirt, and he was exactly the same off air as you think he is on air.
totally. He is. What you see is what you get, or what you saw was that was my experience with Jabba anyway. He was always a lot of fun.
Now, if Kent puts on his necromancing hood and starts bubbling, whatever the fuck he does, what dead Australian band would you want to see resurrected?
Man, I would love to see non-intentional life form brought back to
Mm,
life. I do remember that band
I
from
don't. Tell me about him.
late 90s kind of band, mid to late 90s. The band I was in before, Brace Henry's Anger, we played quite a lot with them, and they were System of a Down before System of a Down. Like they had this really interesting sound, really influenced by band like a lot of hardcore bands like Bad Brains, but then they had really interesting. Their singer Declan was Irish, so he brought some sort of Gaelic influences into the band, and the drummer, Pedro, he actually ended up going to Killing Heidi when NIL split. He was Killing Heidi's drummer on the first, and is today as well.
Yeah.
But they were hands down one of the greatest live bands I've ever seen. So I don't know if their album Wishka is on streaming anymore. It used to be on Spotify, UISCE. But man, that is one of the best Australian albums of all time. And I would love to see them back together. Do I have to stop at one?
No, go for it.
No, all right. Well, growing up in Canberra, seeing Alchemist, would love to see Alchemist get back together. Armored Angel were also, they were gods growing up in Canberra, so it'd be awesome to see those guys. Public Hanging, used to go see Public Hanging back in the 90s, which were the brutal band, but they were great too. So many good bands that have split up, but made such great music.
It must have been so weird playing music that was in any way heavy in the 90s. I had a great chat with Jason Fuller from Blood Duster, who now runs Goat
Right.
Studios, about what it was like in the 90s. They were putting themselves forward to the big day out, and they kept getting hit with a no and saying it's too heavy, girls won't like it.
Right.
Apparently, that's a direct quote from what they were
Really?
told back in the day.
Yeah.
Um, you know, metal's always kind of been treated like the bastard stepchild, in Australian media, particularly then. Was
Yeah.
it? Did you guys ever struggle with that? I mean, I know Brace aren't the heaviest band in the world, but
No. No, well, I mean, we were a little bit, so we formed about, I forget, maybe it was 2002, something like that. So we were kind of in the early 2000s, and we were a little bit rockier than again the band I was in before, Henry's Anger, and Lachlan, our keyboard player, was in a black metal band called Nazul, and they sort of still
I know that
play
name. Yeah, yeah.
every 5 years or so. So we were a bit rockier. So we were kind of more in that Deftones and Quicksand sound, and so there wasn't quite the pushback. But the 90s was a really weird time for metal. Do you know that there was that period where it wasn't quote unquote cool? I mean, it's never been cool, but there was just that
Yeah.
90s period where you had grunge, you had punk rock, and you had Britpop, and then you had all the boy bands, and metal just people just seemed lost. A lot of metal bands seemed lost with what to do, and there are some killer albums. I mean, that first Machine Head album, which came out in what, 94, Burn My Eyes,
Oh,
that's just phenomenal.
yeah. It's funny as much
Fear
as people
Factory, yeah.
like to say like, oh, metal died because, and look, in a way that they're true. Metallica, the band that I got to know, were a rock band. They were not a metal band. I was 10 years old in 1995. My first Metallica album was Load. So
Right.
it was, I didn't hear their thrash shit
Yeah.
until years after. So, but for every time they're like, oh, grunge killed metal in the 90s and stuff, it's like, yeah, but you've also got, as you said, Machine Head, Fear Factory,
Yeah.
those demanufacture one of the greatest metal albums of all time, period. So there was a lot of
Totally.
good
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah,
Heaps of good stuff.
I was 10 years old in 1995 and soon got grabbed by the curly hair by some guy with dreadlocks named Jonathan Davis, and shit got real. Yeah.
Well, that stuff, I mean, that early Corn, early System of a
Oh,
Down, like
mhm.
there's Prong, like there were some really great bands that came out in the '90s, but it was I guess it was just a transitional period,
Yeah.
where there was that. But you can't fault that, you can't knock those first couple of Corn records and
Oh,
the
no.
Deftones as well, and like so much cool stuff.
I think in addition to, metal not being, quote unquote cool back then, was there was also a massive boom of Australian alternative music. So that was the focus. Record labels weren't looking for Bloodduster, they were looking for the next UMI, or
Totally.
Silverchair, or, it was,
Yeah.
I can remember the airwaves were just full of it growing up.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of Australian bands kicking around in the 90s.
Well, yeah, and I guess that's, Triple J really championed a lot of those bands as well. And you think of, Body Jar and sort of punk acts, I don't know, Mid-Youth Crisis. I'm trying to think if that was 90s or early 2000s. But anyway, but there were these bands that were, and Triple J was supporting them because I guess that's what, the youth was listening to then. But I don't know. Everything goes. It's all swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything changes, everything evolves, and there's always good stuff. Sometimes you just have to dig a bit harder for it.
Yeah. Obviously, the golden question, well, it's the $1 million question. Why did Brace originally break up? Amicable, non-amicable? One of you
Um,
rooted out the other one's wife. I don't know. Who knows? Like, what do we got?
Look, there may or may not have been chairs thrown at
Oh,
the last band meeting. But you know what? Even though it got a bit, bands are funny things, right? Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
these five distinct individuals with different personalities, but you're all trying to achieve this same goal. But then people change and people evolve and people want certain different things, and it just kind of gets hard after a while. And we had a great 3 years, but yeah, it got a little bit messy towards the end. But amazingly, we stayed friends,
yeah,
throughout it. So even though there might have been a year or two where we didn't have a lot of contact, we've been friends throughout the whole period, which is really cool because I've been in bands where you perhaps aren't as friendly with previous members, and it just feels like, 2 decades on, it's nice to look back and go, "Hey, we did this and we did that. Wasn't that cool?"
yeah.
And to focus more on that stuff than the bad stuff at the end.
And look, friendships don't often survive chair throwing. I mean, Jerry Springer illustrated this brilliantly in the 90s. I guarantee the second one of those went flying across the background. No one was meeting up for coffee.
Well, there was only one chair, so
Ah,
we,
true,
we
fair.
we only half-assed it.
So it wasn't like that amazing video that's been doing the rounds of old mate, the drunk guy getting hit in the
Ah,
back of the head with a basket.
that that's so awesome. But no, we didn't hit. There was no attempt to hit anyone in the back of the head. The attempt was to hit them in the front of the head. So
Uh,
we do things.
I like it. Mate, as someone who used to work, before the army, I spent 3 years working doors in Melbourne. There is nothing funnier than someone hurting themselves when they are trying to hurt you. Like that guy coming out and just clapping them. I know I have been there and I know how good that feels.
Yeah, that's never going away. That video, that's going to get rolled out for decades to come.
Oh, Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer. Um, so mate, Brace has put out a couple of tracks that were originally written back in the day, like 2 decades ago. Let's talk about White Line.
All right, so White Line, yeah. So as you mentioned, we our keyboard player Lachlan's a producer. We're very lucky to have his talents and skills in the band. So we started recording these songs for a follow-up EP or album back in the day, and never got around to finishing it. But we've had the drums and the guitars and bass kind of recorded. So when we got back together to do Necrosonic, we thought, all right, let's finish these songs off, and they sound really great. White Line was one of the ones that we played a lot back in the day, and it's our singer Jamie wrote the lyrics, and it's about fighter pilots in the Gulf War who were apparently on dextroamphetamine. They would
Hmm.
sometimes take that to really maintain focus on whatever their long, if they had really long sorties. I don't know if that's the word,
Yeah.
but they would do that. And he was just kind of thinking, imagine being in control of this, death-bringing fighter machine high on speed. So that would
Yeah.
kind of, he was thinking about the intensity of that, but also about the fact that 20 years on was, I mean, wars are everywhere,
Yeah.
have been for all time, and how pointless it is. So it's very much, he says at one point in there, like, what have we become? Like, it's just
Mhm.
that despair, I guess, that these wars are still happening, crossed with this wild idea of these fighter pilots being high on speed, and like, what happens? Nothing good happens from that.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Wild.
in our first attempt at this interview, I actually mentioned that the Nazis invented crystal meth. So it was a drug called Petrobin. That is what I believe they called it when they gave it to troops. That is the reason they took over Europe so goddamn quickly because they weren't sleeping, or they were
Wow.
just going for days on end. Just and
Yeah.
it's drugs and warfare are like this. Islamic
Okay.
State was apparently back when Islamic State were doing their thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently again we're also off their face on some drug that I believe was called Captagon. So it's
Damn.
the Black Hawk Down. The Somalians were off their tits on a plant called carp, which has similar properties to cocaine and stuff. So yeah,
Right.
war and drugs are common bedfellows.
Right. So it's not so much the war on drugs, it's the war and
The
drugs.
war with drugs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So that's kind of what this song is about. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's amazing too how you're saying that, we haven't gone, why are we still doing this? If you look at footage of the Ukraine right now, it looks like World War One. There
Mm-hmm.
are literally and they are fighting in trenches in these scorched countrysides. The only difference is we have drones.
That's
That's it.
crazy.
We are 100 years after World War One and we're back in trench warfare. It's just
Yeah, it's wild. And I mean, I know, I'm sure you've got insight into it from your military background as well about what's involved with all that kind of stuff, which is wild.
it's yeah. I'm very, very grateful that we live here, dude. As I know we
Yeah,
have our troubles here, but no one is dropping bombs on us. You know,
touch wood. Touch
oh,
wood, totally.
yeah,
No, I agree. I agree, man. There's sometimes the isolation can be a good thing.
yeah, man, absolutely. So look, you mentioned before that you got to tour with one of my favorite bands. Let's talk about touring with Deftones.
Right. Okay. So, we use the word touring
Yeah.
loosely here. We played a couple of shows with them, Sydney and Melbourne.
Mhm.
I guess it was so Chi, the bass player, was still alive. He was still in the band. So it might have been on their self-titled record. I can't remember exactly what. But we did the Roundhouse in Sydney, which was, 2,500 people, I think. And then we played another venue in Melbourne, which I forget, it's down by Luna Park. And that was just great. It was awesome. We got to chat with them a little bit and, speak. I think remember Abe in particular being the drummer, being very chatty and very amicable. And their crew were very cool. And so, we got to have this great experience of not only playing in front of their fans, which was great, but actually getting to just see that whole operation, looking at sound check,
Yeah.
watching them from the side of the stage play, still feeling that power, particularly like drummers who hit hard, like Abe has to be at the top of that list.
Yeah.
Um, and they were on top form. I think it might have been they were out here for the big day out and these were side shows. I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
But they were awesome. They're really, really good. And
Yeah. It
yeah.
sounds like it was because they came down for the 2003 Big Day Out, so they would have been touring self-titled. And I think either previously would have been either White Pony or if it was in the late 90s, it would have been Around the Fur.
Well,
Yeah.
around yeah, I mentioned my previous band, Henry's Anger. We got to play with them on the Around the Fur shows as well. They played the Iron Duke in Sydney. And I think they did 4 nights there, and that's like a 400 capacity pub. And this is
Oh,
just as their star is like really starting to surge. And but that was I definitely remember we had a lot more access to, I think we shared the band's dressing room at that point, and remember at sound check just sitting down chatting to Steph about what bands were coming out of the States at the time. And I think we were talking about Orange 9mm and all these other kind of acts, and getting his take on that, that was definitely a cool moment.
Yeah. And
And
it's funny.
to see them go nuts in a venue like that. I mean, the walls were sweating. You know those gigs where the actual building sweats? That's
I'm
that's what
so
it's like.
jealous. Considering I'm looking down the barrel of paying $200 for one general admission standing ticket to go see them.
Yeah,
Right.
it's crazy, isn't it? I mean,
However, as bitchy as that sounds, I am thrilled that they have gotten this mad second life with the new generation, apparently, according to TikTok. I'm like, yeah, so
right. It's crazy, isn't it? Like of all the bands from back then, I mean, they're what are we talking now? 25 years on from
yeah, I think they
30 years
started in like
on?
93, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
to still to have actually not only survive, but like you said, to thrive, because it felt like for a period they did have their. I mean, every band has dips over a career that
Yeah.
big, but their last 4 or 5 albums have just been, so solid, and they've always been a great live band too. And I know Steph won't be doesn't tour with them anymore outside of the States, so it'll be interesting to see, how that all works. But I suspect it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, no, I saw them in 22 with we kind of begrudgingly called it Chino and Friends, the lineup, because without Steph, the replacement for Steph was great, but he's part of it, It's like,
Totally.
damn it,
Yeah.
you're not going to fall off the fucking earth step. Come down here. His reasoning for touring was actually a combination of COVID, like just the lockdowns and stuff, and
Right.
his experiences with the Bataclan terrorist attack over in Paris. Because you
Right.
remember an Eagles of Death Metal gig got shot up.
Yeah.
Deftones were there earlier that night. They were going to be playing a show. They were due to play a show the next night at a
Right.
venue that got hit with a terrorist attack. And apparently he was just in his hotel room going, fuck this, get me back to the States. And
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever left since. So
Pretty
I get
much. Yeah.
it. Uh,
And you've been doing it for as long as he's been doing it. Do you know what I mean? At some point, he's probably just like, fuck it.
yeah.
I'll record on the records, play in the States, and then, yeah, I'm tired.
Well, it's like Slayer. We're like, oh, we've done our farewell tour. And then last year they're like, all right, we'll do a few festival ones, but we're not leaving the States.
Right. Everyone does that, don't they? That's just the way. I mean, it's a good way to sell tickets, isn't it? Say
Look,
it's
it
your
is.
last ever tour.
Ah, no.
But you know what? I would take Slayer whenever. They can tell
Oh,
me that up and come back a few years later, and that's just fine with me.
my wife is not in the house right now, but I know somewhere her ears are twitching because I'm about to tell the Slayer story. But
Oh, okay.
2019, their farewell show in Brisbane, it was an outdoor area called Riverside in the Botanical Gardens. Fucking
Mm,
beautiful setting.
mm.
The show is the set is just unbelievable. I'm close enough to Tom Araya that I'm losing my eyebrows during Halloween, during the pyro. It's fucking good to go.
Yeah.
Someone throws a shoe at him and he ended up dedicating payback to them like this. Oh, it was just but then the moment happens, you hear the boom boom boom, the opening of Raining
Right.
Blood, and I shit you not, that
Yeah.
first boom boom boom, it starts raining.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
don't
really?
and I don't mean raining, I mean Brisbane just boom.
Man, wow.
And we're all looking at each other going, holy fuck. So I'll
Was
happily
there
see them again, but that is all time.
was
Like,
there any blood? Any blood in that rain, or was it just
there wasn't any blood in that rain that I saw. There was definitely some blood in the bloody pit. Oh, far out. But yes, no, that is the Slayer story, and I'll never stop telling it.
such a great band? I mean, yeah, unparalleled. Just brutality. They're
Oh,
like a steam train, right? It's just like
yeah, Hell's
awesome.
House band, though I like to call them.